Hey guys, this is Sean McGarry, and I'm at Mansion Hill Tavern in Newport, Kentucky with the amazing Walfredo Reyes Jr. Hey man, thank you so much for being here. This is an honor and a privilege.
Thank you.
And
honor is mine.
Pretty easy day for you. You said you just walked here from your house, right?
Yes, sir.
Without giving too much away, but this is your hood, right?
Beautiful Newport, Kentucky, historic East Row, and we love it here.
Yeah. It's probably a little bit different from where you grew up in Cuba, right? But it's a beautiful neighborhood here.
Yeah, Cuba, and then Puerto Rico in the 60s, and then Las Vegas from 12 to college, and then I moved to LA.
Yeah.
But this is really beautiful. My wife is from Cincinnati, so, you know, a lot of people don't realize, I mean, you can walk 20 minutes and you're like, you know, in the Purple People Bridge on your way to Cincinnati downtown.
Yeah, and if people don't know, if you're not familiar, like we could literally throw a rock and hit downtown Cincinnati.
Yes.
So it's a great area. And how cool is this bar, man? Like this is a historic bar. This is such a...
It is.
It's institution here in Cincinnati, Greater Cincinnati, Newport, and they still have amazing bands. And yeah, it's just, we're honored to have that in this
I've played here, and it sounds great. The
Yeah.
people, the energy of the people filling it up, you know, the acoustics are perfect.
Yeah. It's a music bar.
Yeah,
Sure.
it's a beautiful music bar. Good food too, and drinks, and it's just like the vibe, you know, it's just the walls, if the walls could talk.
The walls could talk. For people who don't know, like your family is crazy talented. Like your father, let's talk about him for a second.
Yeah, my dad was one of the way it happened, my dad...
Walfredo Sr.
Walfredo Reyes Sr. Fortunately, he passed away last year and at 93. My father grew up from age 10 to 18 in New York City in the era where it was going to be like jazz drumming, and he had great teachers. My grandfather was a famous Cuban trumpet player, so was working in New York. Then they moved to Cuba, back to Havana in the heyday, the early 50s, when he was 18. And then he was one of the first guys that could play all the styles and the drum set, but also percussion. I hope nobody's hurt.
Hey, it's all right, man. Maybe they're coming to check this out. It's live, people.
That way. And so like what happened is like he was one of the first guys who started mixing Latin percussion with the American drum set.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing.
And really innovator, always inventing stuff. You know, I have setups of him with like, you know, a kid with timbales and a conga on the left side, and he did that in the early 50s.
Wow.
And so I grew up
a pioneer, basically.
Yeah,
right?
pioneering that, and then my mother's side of the family were musicians too.
Crazy.
So, so then, you know, 1961, we left Cuba. I was 5, 1 year in New York City, and then we moved to Puerto Rico, which was like the golden era of Puerto Rico. When Cuba closed, Puerto Rico and the hotels became the hub with all the American artists coming to play for the tourists, and my dad was in the house band at the San Juan Hotel for a long time. So I grew up with that, but I didn't know how blessed and lucky I was. So when I saw the movie Dr. Dolittle, I wanted to be a vet.
That's crazy, man.
Yeah, I wanted to be a vet, of course, until the 8th grade, you know, with the dancing and the girls and the rock and roll and the American and British radio and all that. I asked my dad, I want drum lessons because I think I can play the music I love and use the drum set as a vehicle to play the music I loved. You know, like in those days, like the Grassroots, the Rolling Stones, the Beatles.
You were a rocker growing up, right?
I was a rocker growing up.
Cream, Stones.
Cream, all that. So that was the music I wanted to play. Lucky for me, my dad was a lover of jazz. So I always tell this, like sometimes in those days we had each the turntable, so I have all my Cream records. CTA was one of the first albums that I bought with my money.
I know. And how ironic is that?
Isn't that crazy?
I mean, is that a pinch me moment sometimes? You're like on
yeah,
stage, like,
and
okay.
the third one was Abraxas Santana.
Yeah.
So
That's
you know,
crazy.
And so like sometimes my mom in the kitchen listened to salsa and Latin music, merengue, and she would cook, and so it was that music with Afro-Puerto Rican and Afro-Cuban drums. Then my dad listening to Miles Davis, big band, Buddy Rich, Louis Bellson, Tony Williams, Elvin Jones. So sometimes when you go into the hall to go to the bathroom, I realized like that's what I became eventually, because it was like my rock and roll from my bedroom, my dad's jazz records, and then my mom's salsa Latin. So sometimes I was playing Jimi Hendrix with Elvin Jones on drums and conga drums from my mom's kitchen.
Well, you grew up, it's like a stew, right?
It was like, whoa.
Yeah.
So eventually I embrace all of the styles.
And there's a quote you said I want to ask you about in a second, but the analogy the parallel is from like the way you grew up. Like my father was a pretty well-known jazz saxophone player, and my grandfather was a jazz drummer. My brother played, so I was surrounded by music as well. But something that stuck out, I read that you said something about your dad playing jazz and stuff, but you were just too young to appreciate it and get it. And that's kind of the way I felt. And
yeah.
You know, and it's cool that our fathers just let us absorb what we needed and just get into what we're into. And that's kind of, I think, what you try and instill in anybody that's learning the instrument is like, if you're into this, then just take it and run with it, right?
That's right.
Well, and see what happens.
It's funny because and that era, it was the psychedelic, Woodstock '69 and 1968, 1969, and they were saying these kids are dropping acid and this and that. I never did, but like I was in the 8th grade looking at the, like Woodstock and this and that, and then I was listening to John Coltrane with Elvin Jones, and I was going. It went like,
like
same. My dad and his musician friends, those are the crazy dudes. What are they listening to? It was just, and I didn't understand it.
It's hard, at that age.
At that age, and
which is fine, I think. You don't have to be at that age.
Yeah. So I remember later on, my dad got a job in Las Vegas, the Thunderbird Hotel. So that's when we moved the family at the end of 1969 to Las Vegas. And then Alex Acuna, which is later on played drums with Weather Report and a lot of great albums, had just moved to Las Vegas and set up his drum set on our padded garage. And he would be into Elvin Jones and was showing me all this stuff and all that. And I was like, we played for hours. And it was just like that's when I started to realize, man, that's when I dropped football, school dances, hanging out. If it was today, no video games, no TV, no nothing. It was like music, sleep music, eat music for a long time.
And I think you know better than anybody. I mean, you have to do that to be an expert at whatever you're into, whether it's medicine or veterinary school, anything. You have to dedicate your life to that. You can't be taken back by other things.
It takes time.
It takes time, man. A lifetime.
Yeah, practice, dedication, and it takes time.
Yeah.
And that's why some of my students, when they come back after a week, they just don't have the lesson, and always the excuses like, well, I have schoolwork, and then and I tell them, I says, it's really crazy today for the kids. There's so much information out there, YouTube and this and
crazy,
video games and 1,000 channels. There's no way you can dedicate hours for your video games and television and school and then dedicate this much to music.
No, it just doesn't work.
Doesn't work.
Yeah, I mean, you got to be all in. Man, I want to ask you something. This is good because I had a quote from you, and I don't want to miss any of this, so I actually wrote this down. Now, this is just a sampling of the bands that you've been in over your life. Not all. But let's just start. I mean, Santana, Boz Scaggs, Gloria Estefan, Traffic, Robbie Robertson, Steve Winwood, Lindsey Buckingham, Chicago right now. I mean, I'm sure I'm missing a lot, but like, that's a lot of variations in music. But the quote I think from you was like, you're a chef. You look at music like you're a chef. You're not just fixing breakfast or dinner, or Cuban food, whatever. You're preparing all these dishes. And
yes.
That's kind of that's a great analogy, man. It really stuck with me.
Thank you. You did your homework because that's exactly how I visualize myself. So I don't want to, not that, for example, some bands, they learn 3 beats and 3 chords and they might make it. I mean, they might get a hit on the radio and all that, but longevity.
Yeah.
So when I look at drummers like the late Jim Gordon, Hal Blaine, Jeff Porcaro, Steve Gadd, Harvey Mason, those guys, Jim Keltner, it started in the 60s and they're still at it.
Yeah, man.
And so it's like 50 years or more and they can go into a studio and cut any kinds of music, and they have done it. So I wanted to do that, and I did it. So when I actually moved to LA, I realized, a lot of it, believe it or not, had to do with the word urgency. I was the oldest of 5 kids. My dad was a musician. He worked sessions during the day and then worked the showrooms at night. And he had to pay the mortgage and pay for my other brothers and sisters. And by 16, I was in the union and I was making my money. But I said to myself, why just sell hot dogs if you can actually have a place that sells hot dogs, burgers, Italian food, Chinese dishes?
That's it, man.
Soups.
That's
if
it
you're
right
sick.
there, people. That's amazing. Yeah, it's so true.
And Peter Gabriel said it one time. He said, I like to play some of my songs, but there's nothing that I like to do more that bring all the people into my music.
Yeah.
And those artists that you mentioned, they're all different. They're all very different, when you deal with different artists. Chicago is actually, you have to be very versatile. And so in Santana. So when I auditioned, for example, with Santana, they told me, learn these 5 tunes. So I learned the 5 tunes. And then when I flew to San Francisco to audition with him, he didn't do any of the 5 tunes. He just started. So it was like this. It was like, if you don't know that, you're in trouble.
Yeah, man.
That's the John Lee Hooker, later on ZZ Top made it.
Yeah.
So a shuffle blues. And then he started doing something else, a ballad. Like, say, a lot of drummers, they can play a lot of chops, but try to do dun 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 dun.
One of my favorites.
Gung, king, gung.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really easy to be excited, adrenaline, and all that, and keep the tempo. So we jammed every style of music, and then at the end, the percussionist started going, jamming, and a lot of the drummers that were auditioning before me, they were great, but they didn't understand the Afro-Cuban Latin percussion. So when Armando Peraza and Chapito started going at it, I knew exactly, because I grew up with that, and they and so when it came time for the vote, I got voted in, and I played with Santana from 89 to 93, 2007. In 94, I went with Traffic, with Steve Winwood, another versatile band. Traffic was mixing Celtic music, rhythm and blues, jazz, and classical music all together.
So why do you think, other than being an amazing drummer and a cool guy, but why do you think you got all these gigs? I mean, is a lot of it luck, word of mouth, just being in the scene? What do you think? I mean, what's some advice you give to people that might be looking?
That's a good question. For me,
because I mean, you're a working man's musician. You've done, I mean, not with just okay bands. Like, you've played and are playing with some of the top bands in the world, iconic legends of all time, which is amazing, man.
Part of it, in those days, it was word of mouth. I didn't have an Instagram account or YouTube channel. So I decided to tackle percussion, mostly Latin, but African, Brazilian, pop percussion, all the styles on percussion, all the styles on drum set, and mixtures. So for example, they would go, man, call this guy because he can play drums and then he can color it with percussion. So I'm not trying to take percussionists out of work, but I have done many jobs on percussion and then many jobs on drums. So then, for example, with Chicago, I never stopped playing drums. So I play percussion, and I play drum sets. So I play with Chicago percussion from 2012 to 2017, and in 2018, when Tris resigned from the band, it was naturally, Lee told me, when are you ready to step on the drums? And I went, what? Because, I had a job on percussion and I had just moved.
Were you surprised by that?
I was surprised, but, I was actually at that time, I was with Chicago, playing percussion. I had a great job. I was doing my albums on drums and doing other gigs on drums. I had just moved back to Vegas, bought a house, started going out with my now wife, and I was happy. And I said, maybe they're auditioning drummers, and maybe Danny Seraphim might come back, maybe Tris might come back. You know, it's just like, there's that. So Lee asked me, and then I had to, you know, when you actually go from percussion chair to drum set chair with Chicago, it's almost like you're on the same road, but now you got to drive a different car.
Yeah, man.
A little different learning curve.
Great analogy.
But I knew the music, and I knew what Tris did all these years, and what they liked.
So it was a pretty easy transition for you, right?
Yeah, because, you know, Tris resigned. It had nothing to do with music. You know, it's not like, oh, we don't like this drummer. No, it was not that. They were happy with what I was doing on percussion and what Tris was doing on drums. Yeah. But now I got to step in, and the best thing to do, I did that with Santana, Steve Winwood, take over what is already working.
I was going to ask you that. So what is your approach like in Chicago? I mean, these guys have been around since, you know, early 70s. I don't even, maybe the 60s. I don't even know, man. But it's like, do you take on the spirit of the original tunes? Do you bring your own personality to it?
Yeah, you got to respect.
Got to respect it, yeah.
And actually, the setup that I'm using is because that's similar to the one Tris was using and Danny Seraphim. So if it was another gig with a three-piece kit, then I would have a three-piece kit. My approach is definitely not, oh, wait till I put my stuff and change all the tunes to my... No, it's not that. It
wouldn't work, would it?
No, because people want to hear the soundtrack of their lives.
100%.
They allow me and they want me to change some things because they want a little bit variety after playing their tunes 59 years. Yeah. They were like, hey, can you do it a little faster? And you don't do this and do that. So I take
that's so cool.
directions from the bosses, the original guys, and the composers of the songs.
Yeah, man.
So when I'm playing with Chicago and Jimmy Pankow, which wrote a lot of the songs, tells me, and this song of mine, you know, of Jimmy, don't do this and do this. You know, I like to try this. That's his baby.
That's it. Yeah. So they are like babies, right?
Yeah. You do what he wants me to do, or Robert Lamb or Lee. And so, and then, you know, you take it from there, and then each band or each version of the band molds and you know, you're playing now. I went to see a little story. I started listening to CTA 1969. Then I moved to Las Vegas. And in Las Vegas Convention Center, where all the rock bands used to play, not the Strip, the rock and roll was at the Convention Center. I saw Chicago in 1974, and they didn't sound like CTA, the album. Yeah. They were like almost like a jam band expanding. Terry Kath was taking long extended solo. It was almost like what they call today a jam band on the tune. So Danny was not playing the fills that he did on the record.
Gotcha. Yeah.
They were 5 years into recording CTA, so now they grew. So a lot of people, they want to hear like the record. If you want to hear a CD, stay home in your system and play the CD, because that was the documented performance of that time.
Exactly. You talk about changing. I mean, what a drastic change from the 70s Chicago to the 80s Chicago.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard to even believe. And I loved both eras. Do you have a preference in your stage of Chicago that you like?
As a drummer, definitely. When Chicago started CTA, I remember they used to call it a jazz rock, progressive, like Blood, Sweat, and Tears. And then came Yes, which was Odd Times, and progressive rock. It was not necessarily dancing music like it was not that. It was complex, the ballet, Odd Times, Introduction, the first song of the first album of CTA, is full of 9/8 bars and odd bars. That was Terry Kath's composition.
Wow.
So it was a progressive thing. So as a drummer, but the 80s, Peter Cetera and David Foster started doing more songs, especially the rock ballads, with a fatter snare drum sound. So it was more like a David Foster production. But, however, those simple songs and those simple ballads made them a lot of money. Big hit, huge hits.
Yeah.
So right now on the show, we play 2 hours. We start with Introduction in 1969. and go all the way to the 1980s.
That's awesome.
There's a lot of songs.
Favorite song to play with Chicago?
Well, that's a good question. I have different favorite songs because, again, it's the soundtrack of my life. The first time that I heard CTA, my little brother, which passed away 2 years ago when he was a baby, I used to put him to sleep in Puerto Rico for a nap. And I used to play the radio, and it was all like, Neil Diamond, Stevie Wonder, House of the Rising Sun, Cream. And all of a sudden I heard, I was taking a nap with him, putting him to sleep, and I heard, it was Beginnings, and Robert Lamb's voice. And I went like, wow, I loved that song. And so I got up, he was sleeping, I took my bicycle, I took $10 that I got for mowing the lawn, and I went to Gemco and I bought CTA, and I loved every song of that album. So Beginnings, I love always playing that song, it gives me the goosebumps.
That's so cool, man.
And then of course, Introduction is a intricate tune. I also love, of course, I'm a Man, which is a cover that they used to play in the club days. They used to play covers. So they played I'm a Man, one of the first songs that they jammed to. And I played I'm a Man with Steve Winwood, but I love the Chicago version.
Yeah.
And that's when we take our drum solo, percussion drum solo.
That's so cool. So, we talked briefly before the cameras were rolling, but you're obviously an incredible teacher. You give back a lot of, if you get on YouTube and see all the stuff you do, you're a very passionate teacher. What about teaching do you like? You don't have to teach at this stage in your life, but why do you like teaching still?
I love teaching because the teaching, starting with my father, which was my first teacher in music and in life. I had Alex Acuna, I had Leo Camera in Las Vegas, a very weekly rudiments and teacher. I had Sam Pergola in high school, which was a percussionist, my high school band teacher, for Frank Gagliardi at the university, and all these drummers that I've learned percussion and drum set. And for me, it's a tribute to you pass it forward, which is a very good quote, pass it forward. You become a great student by teaching and vice versa. So I like to, what happened to me, somebody taught me something and I made it into my own vocabulary. And I love to see somebody discover something and I teach them what it is and they get better. And all of a sudden they come back and they're a better drummer, a better musician, because now they have a wider vocabulary.
Yeah, because of you,
Well, it's a challenge, to try to give information, and sometimes it's not good news. Sometimes it's like we were talking before. It takes time, practice, consistency, dedication, and sacrifice, because the sacrifice comes into, I'm going to get this down, and everything else is secondary.
Yeah, you have to absolutely.
That's a sacrifice.
It's a sacrifice.
Because when I was a kid, I wanted to go out with the girls and to the movie theater and parties that I was invited, and to the high school dance, hang out with the guys, go to a football game. And I had to say no to that because I was living and eating, studying conga, the slap, the bongo technique, the pandeiro, Brazilian percussion, djembe technique, rudiments on the pad, and then applying them to the drum set, listening and learning songs from all idioms. But later on, all of that paid out because when I moved to LA, I already had a gig to pay my rent, which was Ben Vereen. I would go on the road with Ben Vereen a little bit. And then Marilyn McCoo had a show called Solid Gold, so she didn't go a lot on the road. She just
what year was that?
1980.
80, yeah. I remember that.
So the rest of the time, I would play a Mexican music party. I played all the Persian records with strings, reading the music, laying the beat, and then they would play Persian percussion. I did a lot of Persian records, and then little jingles for TV commercials, movie soundtracks on percussion. I was just like the young guy on third percussion, getting into the studios little by little. And then, I mean, top 40, you know what I'm saying? Top 40 bands, jazz gigs at the Big Potato, swing, whatever the style, I said yes. And by 1984, after like 4 years in LA, I got this gig with Tania Maria, which is a Brazilian jazz funk. We toured with Spyro Gyra and David Sanborn, all of Europe and Japan. And when I came back to the States, New Orleans Jazz Festival, I met this bass player, and he goes, man, you will be so perfect. Do you play reggae? He goes, yeah. I mean, I definitely love playing reggae and ska and all the idioms. And so he goes, David Lindley and El Rayo X. And I knew David Lindley. He was the slide guitar player with Jackson Brown.
Oh, wow, okay.
And all strings, mandolins, everything string.
Monster player.
And we auditioned, and it was like a world beat band, David Lindley. And through David Lindley, I remember the first gig, Joe Walsh, Bunny Raitt, Jackson Brown were there. And so I got more exposed to the rock world. And then I played on a Jackson Brown record, and Joe Walsh would come and jam with us, and Werewolf of London.
Warren Zevon.
Warren Zevon would come in and jam with us. So from 1980s, and Jerry Garcia loved David Lindley, so he would ask David to open for the Grateful Dead.
Wow.
So we played for the Grateful Dead, opening for Los Lobos in around 1987, something like that. And then another big festival, it was David Lindley, Santana, and the Grateful Dead, and that's when I met Carlos, and Carlos saw me play, and he sounded me to audition for Santana.
Well, I think your resume is just stands for itself, speaks for itself. I mean, a testament to your hard work, dedication, and being an awesome musician. And here's the reality of it too, man. I mean, you got to be a pretty cool cat to play those guys, because there's a lot of talented people out there. But at this age, you know better than anybody, man. You got to be a good hang and be a team player. You know, you can't be wrapped up in your own head.
No,
I
drugs,
always alcohol, the whole 9 yards.
You're right.
You know,
I always say something on stage, off stage. You got to work on both. On stage, be the best musician you can be. Off stage, be the best human being. You know, be the guy that brings the donuts to the session, or you know, you're early, you're in time. Somebody tells you to do something that to you might sound ridiculous or crazy. You got to have an open mind to figure out what is your vision. I'm here for your vision, not to feed my ego.
Right. And you know, and that's probably why you're getting calls. I read too that you coached. Forgive me for getting the actor's name, and being Ricardo.
Oh, yeah.
You coached the guy to do all those scenes, which is
crazy. Yeah, that was crazy.
Man. You know, and that was like one of my favorite shows growing up, the I Love Lucy show.
Yeah.
You know?
So
how did that go about?
Well, you know, we were, as you know, locked up in the pandemic, no tour, no nothing, and my wife, for my birthday, December 18, by then, a lot of restaurants were setting up on the sidewalk, outside. You know, you had to wear masks and all that. So my wife gave me a surprise and to just drive, and we drove, and I drove and go, where are you taking me? Wind up staying at the Peninsula in Chicago, Peninsula Hotel. So the minute I arrived, I got a phone call, and this lady goes, hi, do you teach percussion? He goes, sure. And he goes like, how much do you charge? And I gave her the fee. You know, I don't know who this person was, but it's just basically that's what I do. An hour, I teach for 1 hour lesson. And she goes, okay, well, I'll call you right back. Okay. And that was an odd call. Then about 10 minutes later, she called me. They go, can you teach via online, by Zoom and all that? Somebody, this is an actor, and I have to send you some forms because it's like you can't disclose anything that we're talking about. And I went, okay, so this is different. So it wound up being Javier Bardem was doing Ricky Ricardo in the movie Being the Ricardos.
Yeah.
And it was Nicole Kidman was cast. So what happened is I started teaching Javier. He was in Madrid, and I'm here in Newport, Kentucky. And believe it or not, it was not even Zoom. Javier one time told me, I don't know how to do Zoom. Can you just FaceTime me? Or can I just FaceTime you? I go, sure. So we would set up and we would talk, and immediately he's really great because he loves drums and he's a heavy metal.
So he has some background in it.
Yeah, he loves heavy metal, believe it or not.
Oh,
So
no
he
way.
understands, and his son plays too. And so what happened is I learned he had to play the long drums, that don't have lugs like in the 1940s.
Right.
And so I actually put my phone right here and sent him like 6 different little clips. Memorize this. Just work on each clip. And by the way, that's what I do now with some of my students, including my daughter. Instead of
Your daughter, who was in George Benson, right?
yeah, playing percussion and vocals. But instead of trying to learn something this view, I want to teach you how you're viewing it.
Wow.
Like from your eyes.
That's crazy cool.
So I put the camera here, and whether it's the snare drum or the drum set or the conga drum, and that's what I did. Javier did a great job, and then he called me from the set. The drum was a little heavy, and then it was just great. He was just great, and it was a great experience. And he basically went on talk shows and put my name all over the place, which I was not expecting that.
Yeah.
They gave me credit, and I wind up playing on the soundtrack.
Yeah.
Recording right here. The 20s, it was a very, the 2020 was a changing time for a lot of us. I was not an engineer. I was a drummer, percussionist. I had microphones and all that, but I could never compete with my favorite sound engineers. So I had to learn all of that during the pandemic. So
Well,
really
you had
quickly.
time, right? Yeah. I think a lot of us did. So, man, I wanted to ask you about the song Walfredo by Phish. I had no idea, no clue that was about you, man.
Oh, my
What's
God.
the story?
So this is really funny because a few years ago, I taught my daughter percussion, and then she got the gig with George Benson on vocals, and she graduated from USC. My other 2 boys too are musical. They don't do it professionally, but like my daughter came to one of the practice sessions, and she goes, "Dad, I have a girlfriend, and she's playing this song named Walfredo, and I don't know too many Walfredos." And I started listening to the lyrics, and I go, "Oh my God, that's my dad." The splatter drum set with Santana and this and that. What else should I know about you that I don't know? And then of course, that song is really interesting because it's really a little story by Phish. Because when I was with David Lindley, Phish were fans.
Yeah.
And every time we played Maine and Vermont, they came. They were young.
Okay.
They had done 1 album, and I think they did 2 or 3 albums, and Epic bought them and released them. And I think that by that time, I had moved on. When they came to see David Lindley, I was gone with Santana. And then they opened for Santana, and they sat in. That's the lyrics. Phish, man, the drummer, played a vacuum cleaner and ruined your set and with a vacuum cleaner. And so then the next time they came to see Santana, I was gone with Steve Winwood. So that's what the song's about. Walfredo, where did you go? Who put you up to it? How much do you get paid? And
That's so cool, man.
It was really fun.
Did you ever play a song with him live?
No, but
you ever jammed with those guys live
I
before?
really, because in that song, the reason it became popular, they switch instruments.
Yes.
Yeah. And so I really still want to record that song, and maybe Mikey on bass or whoever of Phish wants to play it, and my version. I would love to redo that song.
I think they'd be up for it.
Yeah, I think one day
Have
I'm
you played
going
with
to do
those guys
that.
before? Have you jammed with them before?
Oh yeah,
Okay.
yeah, with Steve Winwood, with Santana, and Trey, the guitar player from Phish, has a version online just by himself that is brilliant.
Wow.
Walfredo, and he tells the story, mentions Raul, our late percussionist with Santana, and Carl, and everybody that has been in the story.
Yeah. Well, I think it's safe to say that everybody in the music community loves you, man. You're spreading your good vibes by bringing us all this amazing music. I can't thank you enough for being here with me today, man. And listen, I got to give a shout out to my buddy David Parks for introducing us and putting this together. So David's another amazing drummer. Thank you, David. Check him out. We can check you out on tour this summer, right, with the Chicago? You
Yeah,
guys staying
Chicago, the band, life-walfredo.com/tour. We're just starting. I leave in a few days. And then I have a few trio cover tunes that I'm doing with my little jazz.
I'll put links below on this.
And locally here, and I'm putting just one tune at a time out, but they're all available on social media. You know, like you were asking me, my DVD, Global Beats from 2004 for drum set and percussion, and I have my CDs, Wally Whirl, which was my first CD. My second CD, Jamming at the Baked Potato. It's a fun covers. And and then with Chicago, we do like 8 months out of the year.
All right.
On and off, on and off. So we're going on the road this year with Styx.
Hell
From July to September, we'll be on the road with Styx, and I'll be hanging with Todd Zuckerman, which I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, man.
And it's
I
going to
look
be
forward
fun.
to seeing you on the road. Thanks again. Thank you so much, brother.
Thank you.
Appreciate you. Yeah.
Okay.